You know the snow will slowly melt, but my love will never die.
The disappearance of Alexis Patterson, on May 3, 2002, at around 7:40 a.m., 7-year-old Alexis Patterson and her stepfather, Laren Bourgeois, walked to her school at Highmount Community School, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. When Alexis didn't come home at her usual time, her mother, Ayanna Patterson, rushed to her school, only to find out that Alexis was marked absent and never made it to school that day. Alexis was never seen or heard from again. 14 years later, after her disappearance, a man from Bryan, Ohio came forward to say that his ex-wife, Lisa Miller, may be Alexis Patterson. Once this information got back to Ayanna Patterson, Alexis' mom, it led her to believe that she may have found her missing daughter. With a lead being this strong, Milwaukee police does not believe this to be true. Ayanna has a different output on this lead. This is the mysterious disappearance of 7-year-old, little Alexis Patterson, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who went missing 22 years ago. This week Alexis was walking to school with her stepfather, Laren Bourgeois, and vanished without a trace. How does a child that is being accompanied by her stepfather go missing, with only a half block away from the school, 242 steps away from her front door, and a walk that was taken quite often to attend school and leave school at dismissal? Alexis Patterson was born on April 4, 1995, to Ayanna Patterson and Kenya Campbell. While Alexis was still very young, her parents decided to part ways. Later, Ayanna met Laren Bourgeois and they married soon after. Alexis lived full-time with both her mom and step-father in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on the 2200 block of N49th St. The home that they once resided is now a vacant plot of land, with still the surrounding homes still up. Alexis was in the first grade, attending Highmount Community School. As stated, her school was only 242 steps away from her front door to the school. You can see the school from their home. This was a walk that Alexis took every day to go to school. Alexis was a straight-A student, had perfect attendance, and absolutely loved school. One of her teachers described her as having a beautiful smile, and because of this, the other students always wanted to sit next to her. On the evening of Thursday, May 2, 2002, Ayanna, Alexis, and her stepbrother went to the Jewel-Osco, a local supermarket in the area, to pick up some cupcakes for Alexis and her classmates. It was Alexis' turn to bring snack for her classmates on that Friday. I also want to mention that back in 2002, there was a 15-second surveillance video released from the Jewel-Osco that confirmed this whereabout. On this same evening, Alexis was supposed to complete her homework, as she did all the time. Ayanna stressed the importance of an education, which obviously was shown in Alexis' school work and perfect attendance. On the next morning, Friday, May 3, 2002, Alexis did not complete her work, so she was unable to take a snack, which were cupcakes for her classmates. This was devastating to Alexis. She was noticeably upset. However, she got ready for school and left home with her stepfather, who walked her to school. On this morning, Laren walked Alexis to school. According to Laren, in an interview he did in 2017, while he was imprisoned for drug-related charges, with 620 WTMJ, a radio station in Wisconsin, he stated that it was not typical for him to walk Alexis to school. Alexis was still noticeably upset and crying, and Laren claimed that he would bring her cupcakes later and for her to not worry about it. "I usually don't walk her to school, but this time I did." Laren Bourgeois, stepfather Alexis is usually home by 2:50 p.m., from what we've gathered from reports. At 2:55 p.m., Ayanna grew concerned because Alexis did not arrive home. From that same interview that Laren did, he stated they may have kept her at the school because she may have did something. By 3 p.m., Ayanna rushed frantically to Highmount Community School to locate Alexis. Around 10 or 15 minutes, according to Laren's account, Ayanna said that the school mentioned that Alexis was marked absent and was not in school. Her teachers did not see Alexis in or near school grounds this day. Once a search was ensued, Alexis' classmates and teachers were interviewed. Some of the children stated that they saw Alexis on the playground before and after school that day. With children, as young as they were, it is hard to know whether they were recounting a previous time of seeing Alexis from another day or the morning of May 3 that she went missing. Some students reported a red and blue SUV in the area, and a blue van or car sped off fast. 1 week before Alexis' disappearance, teachers had seen her talking with a random lady outside of the school. Her mother spoke with her about not talking with strangers. 2 days later, the same woman was seen outside the school trying to talk with Alexis again. Students later reported to police there was a red truck parked outside of the school for about a week, that it sat in the parking lot and that it did not pick up or drop off any student. The red truck was no longer seen again once Alexis was reported as missing. The Amber Alert system was started a year later after Alexis Patterson's disappearance. Ayanna and Layron were both interviewed and given polygraph tests. Missing since May 3, 2002. Missing from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Classification: endangered. Missing sex: female. Race: black. Date of birth: April 4, 1995. 29. Age 7 years old. Height and weight: 3 feet 8 inches, 42 pounds. Clothing/jewelry description: a hooded red pullover nylon jacket with a gray stripe running down each sleeve, a light purple blouse or a blue shirt with horizontal stripes, light blue jeans, blue and white high-top Nike sneakers and cluster-type diamond sunflower-shaped earrings with yellow gold posts. Carrying a pink Barbie book bag. Her hair was styled in 2 French braids which were pulled back into a ponytail. Associated vehicle: S. Red truck. Distinguishing characteristics: African American female. Black hair, brown eyes. Alexis has a scar below her right eye. She has a bump on her left pinky finger. Alexis's primary and secondary teeth are crowded, and her gums are dark in color. Her ears are pierced. Alexis's nicknames are Lexi and Pie. She is right-handed. Alexis Patterson went missing at the age of 7 on May 3, 2002. Alexis and her family lived on the 2200 block of N49th St. in Milwaukee, WI. Her stepfather, Layron Bourgeois, walked Alexis to High Mount School, which was about half a block away from their home, and was located on West Garfield Ave in Milwaukee, WI. He watched her cross the street and walk towards the school playground before turning to leave. When she hadn't returned home from school at 3 p.m., her parents and her family became worried and learned from the school that she had not attended any of her classes that day. It is reported that Alexis was seen crying on the playground. Her parents thought that it was possible that Alexis might have been upset with them because they wouldn't let her bring cupcakes to school for a snack. Her parents insist that Alexis would never run away or leave willingly with a stranger. 2 weeks prior to her disappearance, parents at the school received a letter warning them about a man who was trying to abduct a boy. 1 week before her disappearance, teachers had seen Alexis talking with a random lady outside of the school. Her mother spoke with her about not talking with strangers. 2 days later, the same woman was seen outside the school trying to talk with Alexis again. Students later reported to police there was a red truck parked outside of the school for about a week, that it sat in the parking lot and that it did not pick up or drop off any student. The red truck was no longer seen once Alexis was reported as missing. In the weeks following Alexis's disappearance, police had set up a command center in Washington Park searching for her by boat, motorcycle, horse, and even doing underwater searches. The Milwaukee Sheriff's Office even used their helicopter in the search for Alexis. The massive search involved 41 police officers, 7 police supervisors, several sheriff's deputies, and even called upon the Milwaukee residents to help in whatever way they could. Several tips were reported at the time of Alexis's disappearance. Late model, red GMC Sport utility vehicle with tinted windows parked outside of the school that week. Dark blue SUV speeding away from area around the time she went missing. Seen near empty warehouses by 32nd and Hampton and also 32nd and Atkinson. All tips were looked into at the time, but police were not able to find anything in the warehouses and were not able to find the cars as they did not have any other information to identify them. Alexis was last seen wearing a red hooded jacket with gray stripes, a purple shirt, blue jeans, and white Nike tennis shoes. She has a scar under her right eye and bump on her left pinky finger. She was 3 feet 8 inches 42 pounds and has black hair, brown eyes. Through the years, numerous tips have come in. One coming from Ohio in 2016, where a woman's ex-husband contacted police after realizing how similar his ex-wife looked to Alexis Patterson. His ex-wife had no memories prior to age 10. Law enforcement issued a DNA test, which excluded the woman as a match. Alexis's mother, Ayanna Patterson, is filled with hope that her daughter will come home to her. vowing to keep searching for answers. Even with her being gone that long, it hurts like hell, Patterson said. But I've turned my pain into power. The city continues to remember Alexis, giving Alexis's mother a commemoration for each year she has been missing. Each year, public officials walk the route Alexis walked, and lay a wreath in honor of Alexis. In 2012, May 3 was declared as Alexis Patterson, Forget-Me-Not Day by Mayor Tom Barrett. Milwaukee Police Department continues to hold a $10,000 reward for anyone that has information leading to the return of Alexis. Any information or leads should be directed to Milwaukee Sheriff's Office 414-278-4788, Milwaukee Police Department Cold Case Hotline 414-935-1212, Milwaukee Field Office of the FBI 414-276-4684, FBI Tip Website https://tips.fbi.gov. This week marks 22 years since Alexis Patterson disappeared. Alexis' mother, Ayanna, still has hope her daughter will return. It's a name and face most of Milwaukee still remembers, 7-year-old Alexis Patterson. This week marks 20 years since she's gone missing. She disappeared on May 3, 2002 when she never showed up for school at Highmount Community School. From frantic searches across the city to many different tips from around the country, the cold case and the girl's whereabouts remain a mystery. Alexis' mother, Ayanna, still has hope her daughter will return. "We waiting for Alexis and we know she's coming home. It's been 20 years and this is a hard fight. This is a hard battle, you understand, so I'm not giving up ever. I'm not giving up," said Ayanna. With still many unknowns and no resolutions for Milwaukee Police and the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department, it remains an open investigation. A $10,000 reward for anyone with information that leads to Alexis is still active. Despite the time that has passed, Ayanna and her community still want Alexis' name to be remembered. Sunday they gathered together as Ayanna shared her gratitude to the people that have supported and stood by her. "Believe me when I say my daughter is alive. Not knowing has really kept me going because that's what gives me the ability to keep fighting." At the time of Alexis' disappearance, investigators put a strong focus on her stepfather, Laurent Bourgeois, who is believed to be the last person to see Alexis. Police never found definitive proof he was involved. He later passed away in 2021 after a suspected drug overdose. Milwaukee Police Department, Wisconsin, 1-414-935-7401 CMAC, 934,808. Asha Degree disappearance, the timeline missing since February 14, 2000, missing from Shelby, North Carolina. Classification: endangered, missing, sex female, race black, date of birth August 5, 1990, 33, age 9 years old, height and weight 4 feet 6 inches, 60 pounds, clothing/jewelry description: possibly a white nightshirt with a teddy bear on it, acid wash or white jeans, and white size 3 Nike sneakers. Carrying a Tweety bird purse and a black backpack. Associated vehicle, S, dark green, early 1970s model Lincoln Mark IV or Ford Thunderbird with rust around the wheel wells. Distinguishing characteristics: African American female. Black hair, brown eyes. Asha may style her hair in pigtails. Her name is pronounced Aisha. Asha Degree was a happy, loved 9-year-old girl, who on a stormy February 14, 2000 disappeared in the pre-dawn hours from her longtime home in Shelby, NC. Despite ground, air, and K9 searches, no one other than 2 motorists who later called in a possible sighting of Asha had any clues for authorities. It's believed Asha left on her own accord and walked alone along Highway 18, a full 1.3 miles from her home during a raging rainstorm. No one knows what happened to Asha from the moment she left her home on Friday, February 11, 2000. Cleveland County schools were out. Asha and her older brother, O'Brien, spend the day with their aunt, Alicia, who lives down the street from the family home. Later that afternoon, both brother and sister attend scheduled Pee Wee basketball practice at the Falston Elementary School where Asha and O'Brien attend. On Saturday, February 12, 2000, both Asha and O'Brien compete in basketball games at Burns Middle School. The girls played first. Asha fouled out of the game and the team experienced their first loss. Both Asha and her teammates took the defeat hard, and it's reported all the girls cried in disappointment and Asha complained about her leg hurting. Reassured by her mother that her leg really didn't hurt, Asha quickly recovered and was seen playing and laughing with her friends in short order. After the boys' game, the family goes home, with Asha being her normal, happy self. Sunday, February 13, 2000, the family attended church services at Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in Waco. Afterwards, the family had lunch at an aunt's house, then headed home. Asha was in good spirits, having received her Valentine's Day candy early from her grandmother, Joanne. At about 9 p.m., a power outage occurred as a result of a car accident nearby. Monday, February 14, 2000, Asha had been lying on the sofa wearing jeans and t-shirt before changing into her nightgown. At around 12:30 a.m., power was restored to the area and Mr. Degree reports seeing both children being asleep in their shared bedroom, though they occupied separate beds. Harold retires to bed at 2:30 a.m. It's around this time, O'Brien sees Asha dressed in her white nightgown with red trim and a teddy bear on its front, get up and use the bathroom, and return to her bed. Shortly afterward, O'Brien reports hearing her bed squeak and believes Asha is just tossing in her sleep. At 5:45 a.m., Ikia, Asha's mom, awakes. The kids normally wake for school at 6:30, but mom gets up early and draws bathwater so the kids can bathe. Ikia goes a few feet from bathroom to the kids' bedroom to wake both O'Brien and Asha, but only sees her son under his covers and Asha missing despite checking the entire house and both cars. Harold and Ikia Degree got married on Valentine's Day in 1988. 1 year later they became parents to O'Brien Degree, and on August 5, 1990, they had their second child, Asha Jackia Degree. The young family lived in Shelby, North Carolina, on 3404 Oakcrest Drive, and were very close-knit, with Harold's mother and sister living down the street from them. Growing up, the Degree family were very religious and attended Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church every week without fail. Asha thoroughly enjoyed church and was always eager to go to her weekly Bible study. Seeing how the family was Christian-oriented, Harold and Ikia did their best to shelter their children from the deviances of the outside world, with limited television and no access to a computer, saying, "Every time you turned on the TV there was some pedophile who had lured somebody's child away." At the age of 9 years old, Asha was coming into her own person. She was a 4th grade student at Falston Elementary and was described as an outstanding student with an exceptional attendance record. When it came to education, she had a knack for science and mathematics. She also enjoyed reading and writing, even having ambitions to become an illustrator, and her English class had just finished reading the book The Whipping Boy by Sid Fleischman, a children's book about 2 kids running away from home but eventually return. Aside from excelling in her education, Asha also loved sports, particularly basketball, where she was the star point guard on her Pee-wee team, the Falston Bulldogs. Asha's brother was also heavily involved in sports and was on the boys' basketball team. Due to Asha and O'Brien's upbringing, they were more responsible than your average child. They would often let themselves in their own home after school and would be found doing their homework or chores by the time their mother arrived home from her job at Kauai America Manufacturing, while their father would get home late from PPG Industries, where he worked the second shift as a dock loader. On Friday, February 11, 2000, all schools were closed for a 3-day weekend because of President's Day. The next day, on Saturday, Asha's school held their first basketball game of the season. Unfortunately, Asha fouled out and her team lost the game. The loss had her visibly distraught because she felt as if she let her teammates down. Nevertheless, as many children do, she quickly recuperated and was back to her normal self. The following morning things were seemingly normal as the Degree family went to church. Once the services concluded, they all went to Aunt Alicia's residence and their grandmother prepared lunch for the family. After spending the afternoon together, Asha and her parents went home because Harold had to get ready for work. At approximately 8 p.m., Asha and her brother, who shared the same bedroom, went to bed early because they stayed up late the night before because they had a sleepover with their cousins, and they had school the next day. An hour later, she awoke due to a blistering thunderstorm, and a power outage occurred in the neighborhood after someone had a car accident in the vicinity. Harold arrived home at 12:30 a.m. and the power restored shortly thereafter. Upon his arrival, he checked on the children and they were sound asleep in their beds. There are some sources that state Asha was still up and in the living room at the time. Harold decided to relax for a couple of hours and checked on his kids once more before going to bed at 2:30 a.m. I have seen some people say Harold left home between that 2-hour period to get Valentine's Day candy, but I haven't been able to substantiate that claim. Not too long later, O'Brien woke up to the sound of Asha getting out of bed to use the restroom. Moments later, he heard her bed squeak. Thinking that she had crawled back to bed, he paid her no mind and went back to sleep. This is where things become mysterious. Ikia awakened at 5:45 a.m. and got the bath ready for the kids since they didn't take one the night before. At 6:30 a.m. she went to wake up Asha and O'Brien. When she went to their room she noticed O'Brien was sound asleep but Asha wasn't in her bed. She thought this was peculiar but wasn't entirely worried, as she scoured the rest of the home expecting to find her. Panic began to seep in, and she went outside to check their 2 vehicles hoping to find her but to no avail. She proceeded to wake up Harold, who advised her to call his mother to see if Asha was there, but she hadn't been. Ikia then called her own mother, and with no luck, Harold phoned the police. The police arrived 10 minutes later at 6:40 a.m. Search dogs were brought in but they were unable to pick up a scent on Asha, possibly due to the thunderstorm. Nonetheless, Asha's family and the police searched the local neighborhood but no trace of her could be found. By noon, over 60 people, including residents in the area, the church congregation, and a helicopter with infrared heat detection were aware of what was transpiring and went to assist in the search. Despite an all-afternoon pursuit of nearby woods and fields, nothing was found beside a mitten that didn't belong to Asha or her family. When Asha's family examined her bedroom for clues, they found that her backpack was missing, which she kept her house key in, along with her Tweety bird purse, and an assortment of clothing. Moreover, all of the doors and windows in the home had been locked, indicating Asha left on her own volition. This revelation suggested that the squeaking O'Brien heard wasn't Asha crawling back into bed. Instead, she was packing her book bag and was getting ready to leave home, for reasons unknown. Asha's disappearance was broadcasting on the local news that evening. This coverage prompted several witnesses to come forward. According to 3 different people, they said they had seen Asha walking alongside NC Highway 18 between 3:45 to 4:15 a.m., only 1 block away from her residence. One driver was very concerned for her well-being because it was still storming outside, and she didn't have any winter clothing on, so he made a U-turn to see if she needed any help. When he attempted to check on her, she darted off into the nearby woods and was never seen again. With new leads to work on, the police searched heavily into the woods where a witness said she ran off into, and that's when they uncovered a shed of a nearby business, Turner Upholstery, and discovered that Asha presumably sheltered herself from the storm because candy wrappers were littered about, a pencil and marker were found, and a Mickey Mouse-shaped hairbow was also located. Asha's family confirmed to the police that those items did indeed belong to their missing daughter. The month of March was hectic for the Degree family. In order to spread more awareness to the public, they began selling t-shirts with Asha's picture on the front, but this quickly came to a halt once they discovered someone was trying to pocket the money made in this charitable cause. With the money they did raise, they offered $5,000 for a reward for any information leading to Asha's whereabouts. Her case also made headlines across national television programs including The Montel Williams Show, America's Most Wanted, and The Oprah Winfrey Show. Aside from this, her case hasn't been featured in the spotlight other than local news stations from time to time. Subsequently, Asha's family members underwent polygraph testing, a procedure that is routine in a missing persons case, and passed with flying colors. Additionally, the lead investigators in the case traveled to Quantico, Virginia to have a profile created of a possible suspect, if this was indeed a case of an abduction, yet the profile was unable to locate any prominent suspects. Asha's case was being actively investigated, but her case was turning cold as all leads being phoned in were turning up no results. It wasn't until August 3, 2001, when 26 miles away in Burke County, the opposite direction of where Asha was seen walking, a contractor working a construction project unearthed a backpack that was wrapped in 2 black plastic trash bags and buried. It was confirmed to be Asha's because it had her name and phone number printed on it. With the latest lead in the case, the police thoroughly examined the construction site and discovered a pair of men's khaki pants and skeletal remains that belonged to an animal. The findings were sent to an FBI crime laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, but the results and additional details have never been made public. Despite the latest bombshell discovery, Asha's case wasn't producing any promising information and her case went cold, though the police did announce they believe Asha left her residence on her own free will and met with foul play. 13 years later, in January 2014, lead detectives in Asha's case hoped to catch a break when U.S. Marshals arrested 52-year-old Donald Preston Ferguson at his residence in Spartanburg, South Carolina for the 1990 murder of 7-year-old Shalonda Poole, who was found strangled, stabbed, and sexually assaulted behind a Greensboro, North Carolina elementary school. At the time of Shalonda's murder, Donald Ferguson was arrested in June 1989 for sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He managed to place bail while awaiting trial and relocated to Greensboro, North Carolina, where he eventually met Shalonda Poole through her half-brother, Marvin Cowan. Shortly after her body was found, he moved back to South Carolina. When he finally went to trial in March 1991, he was found guilty and sentenced to 8 years in prison, but was released in October 1997. Initially, Melvin Bennett, a mentally disabled individual who had an IQ of less than 70 and was a co-worker of Shalonda's mother at the University of North Carolina of Greensboro, confessed to her murder. He would be indicted for first-degree kidnapping and first-degree statutory sexual offense by a Guilford County grand jury in March 1991, but 6 months later DNA tests proved he was innocent. After a 4-day trial in October 1992, he was officially found not guilty. Shalonda Poole's case went cold until her case was reopened in 2007. Through advancements in forensics, the police were led to Donald Ferguson, when DNA was collected from an entirely different sexual assault case that was being examined in 2013, and it surprisingly matched to the DNA evidence obtained from Shalonda Poole's case. Once he was apprehended, the Cleveland County Police focused in on him after looking at his past history and noticing Shalonda's case bore similarities to Asha's disappearance. Shalonda shared a room with her twin sister, and mysteriously vanished in the early morning hours of July 21, 1990, between 6 to 8 a.m. When she was reported missing, many people helped search for her, including Donald Ferguson. He had known Shalonda's family for about a month and had even been to her home days beforehand, playing cards with her family. Her body was uncovered one day later, bound and gagged. She suffered 19 stab wounds to the neck and was manually strangled. After a thorough investigation into Donald Ferguson in a possible connection to Asha Degree's disappearance, he is considered to not have any involvement in her case. In December 2014, he pleaded guilty to Shalonda's murder and was convicted of first-degree murder and first-degree sexual assault and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In February 2015, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office and FBI began to re-examine Asha's case, going through all the evidence collected and re-interviewing people from the initial investigation. During this strenuous process, a viable new lead was made relevant in May 2016. Law enforcement announced to the public that there may have been sightings of Asha entering a dark green early 1970s Lincoln Continental Mark IV or Ford Thunderbird with rust along the wheel wells. 3 years later, in October 2018, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office unveiled more possible clues related to Asha Degree's case via Facebook and asked for the public's assistance. The first piece of evidence was the book McElligot's Pool by Dr. Seuss. It had apparently been checked out at the Falston Elementary School library around the time of Asha's disappearance, but the school didn't contain any records dating that far back. The second clue was a white t-shirt with a red collar and matching sleeves featuring a picture of the band The New Kids on the Block on the front. The police are hoping that by releasing this new information they will be able to jog someone's memory as to whether or not they remember someone having these items shortly before Asha vanished. As of today, there are no prominent suspects in the case despite the latest information released in the last 3 years. Throughout all of these years, the small town of Shelby, North Carolina still has missing pictures of Asha plastered all throughout the area, and blue ribbons are tied around tree and light posts representing that her case has not been forgotten. They continue to rally behind the Degree family, and despite an awful tragedy, they stay strong as a community, always going out of their way to help a neighbor or friend in need. As for the Degree family, they have done everything they possibly can to keep Asha's case shining brightly in the media and in their community. They created a scholarship in Asha's name after watching their son, O'Brien, graduate high school. To raise money for this award for a local student, they sell t-shirts with Asha's picture on it and other charitable events. In addition, they host an annual walk, where people gather together at the Degree family home and walk to the location where Asha was last seen, where a billboard now stands tall with Asha's photograph for everyone to see as they drive on Highway 18. For the better part of 13 years, they hosted this event on Valentine's Day but changed the date to February 7th, because IKEA Degree said it's not right for people to be sad on a day that should celebrate love. It has been a grueling 18 years for the Degree family. They are plagued by so many questions without any answers. Did she leave on her own accord? If so, why? Did someone lure her away from her home? If so, who? Is she still alive? If so, where is she? IKEA still holds on to hope that her daughter is still alive and refuses to lose faith. Her conviction in God and the support from her family continue to give her strength to endure another day. Meanwhile, her son, O'Brien, has a daughter of his own and is almost the same age as Asha was when she disappeared. According to IKEA, her granddaughter is a spitting image of Asha, and seeing her breathes new life into her, and only motivates her more to find her daughter. As long as the family can remember Asha, though she may be missing, she will always be near in their hearts. His is the location where 9-year-old Asha Degree went missing. It is situated near the intersection of Highway 18 and Ridgedale Drive in Shelby, North Carolina. Degree disappeared in the early hours of February 14, 2000, after apparently sneaking out of her family home on Oakcrest Drive, a small, rural neighborhood that is 1.2 miles north of this location. Her father, Harold, said that he last saw Asha at 2:30 a.m., when he checked on her and her 10-year-old brother, O'Brien, before he retired to bed. It is unclear why such a young girl would have left her home on a cold, rainy night with no coat and then walked along the side of a dark highway. When a child makes a puzzling decision, we can usually question them afterwards and piece together their thought process. In this case, we are left with the difficult task of trying to dissect the rationale of a 9-year-old girl who is no longer around to explain herself. It is difficult to fathom why she didn't retreat inside her home after she encountered the cold, wet weather. Perhaps she didn't intend on straying as far as she did, or maybe she misjudged the distance involved. Understandably, there is skepticism about whether Asha really left her home in such a fashion. However, many key details in ongoing investigations are purposely withheld from the public. Therefore, it is difficult to look past the fact that both the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office and the FBI seem adamant that she left on her own accord. The official line is that Asha left her home at some point between 2:30 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. before walking southbound along Highway 18. Although the road in question is busy, it was dark, and the weather conditions would have impacted the visibility of passing motorists, many of whom were driving at a relatively fast speed. It seems as though Asha continued south along the highway for 0.7 miles, 1.1 kilometers, before she was eventually spotted by a witness named Jeff Ruppa. Ruppa said that he saw a young girl with a book bag walking down the road at around 3:30 to 4 a.m. She had pigtails and was wearing a small dress and white sneakers. Concerned, he turned around and tried to check on her. However, by the time he returned, she had left the road and was heading towards the woods. Ruppa commented that she was walking at a pretty good pace and that it looked as though she knew where she was going. When Ruppa returned with investigators, he pointed out an area close to a field that was owned by Charles Turner. Other motorists also came forward to say that they saw the girl. While speaking to the Inside the FBI podcast, Cleveland County Sheriff's Office Detective Tim Adams said that some fairly credible witnesses saw a young girl matching Asha's description walking along Highway 18. One day after Asha's disappearance, a member of the Turner family found a number of items of interest in a large tool shed on their property. The items in question were a yellow Mickey Mouse hairbow, a 1996 Atlanta Olympics pencil, a marker, and a wallet-sized photograph of a young girl who was not Asha. The authorities published the photograph in local newspapers. Asha's parents and local school officials did not recognize the girl. Although Asha's parents expressed their belief that the pencil and hairbow belonged to their daughter, it is unknown whether this was actually proven to be the case or not. The items were sent to an FBI laboratory for testing, but the results were never made public. Furthermore, law enforcement officials have not mentioned the items since they were initially discovered. If they did belong to Asha, then it begs the question of whether she was actually in the shed that night or whether someone else dumped, or strategically placed, them there. A second possible sighting occurred further south of this location, near the intersection of Highway 18 and Highway 180. Trucker Roy Blanton Sr. and his son, Roy Jr. were driving northbound on Highway 18 when they saw a small figure in light-colored clothing walking in the opposite direction. Blanton Sr. said that he initially believed that it was a woman who may have been out walking late at night due to a domestic incident. He could not tell if he saw a child. He sent out a warning message over his CB radio because he was concerned that another truck might hit the person. At roughly 6:30 a.m., Asha's mother, Ikia, discovered that she was missing from her bedroom. After checking the couch, closets, cars, her sister-in-law's house, and her mother-in-law's house across the road, she directed her husband, Harold, to call the police. Meanwhile, she continued searching the neighborhood and shouting her daughter's name. Harold called the police at 6:39 a.m. Within 20 minutes, dozens of officers had shown up. The sniffer dogs did not find Asha's scent. According to law enforcement, this may have been due to the regular stream of passing vehicles on the highway. A search of every home in the Degree family's neighborhood failed to turn up anything of note. The possibility of a hit-and-run was ruled out, as volunteers who combed the side of Highway 18 found no indication that a collision had occurred. If a motorist did accidentally kill the young girl and cover up the incident, then it happened very quickly and in such a way that no trace evidence was left behind on the roadside. During the investigation, officers learned that the girl's book bag was missing from the house, along with a number of other personal items. In their opinion, this indicated that the Falston elementary student had been planning on leaving home that night. The massive multi-agency search effort was eventually wound down after it exhausted all efforts to find Asha. Initially, investigators focused on the possibility that the young girl had run away or that she had become lost and disoriented. However, that theory went out the window 17 months later, when Asha's book bag was discovered double-wrapped in black plastic bags off Highway 18, roughly 26 miles north of where she went missing. This proved that she had fallen victim to foul play. For obvious reasons, the police have remained tight-lipped about the exact contents of the bag. However, they did release information about two of the items that were found inside. These items are notable because they did not belong to Asha. The first item was a white and red New Kids on the Block shirt. The second item found inside the backpack was the children's book McElligot's Pool by Dr. Seuss. Investigators determined that the book had been checked out of the library at Asha's elementary school. Frustratingly, the school did not have a history of who checked out books in 2000. Although the police have not listed the full contents of the book bag, one officer noted that investigators were of the opinion that it contained items that a child would pack, not an adult. In May 2016, the FBI announced that a girl matching Asha's description may have been seen getting into a dark green car near Highway 18. The vehicle in question had rust around the wheel wells and was believed to be an early 1970s Lincoln Mark IV or a Ford Thunderbird. It is unclear how viable this tip was, as it lay in the case files until officers began reinvestigating the evidence with fresh eyes in 2015. The current, prevailing theory among law enforcement is that Asha left her house for unknown reasons and was subsequently abducted. If you look at solved cases involving children who went missing due to foul play, you will see that the perpetrator is almost always a relative, neighbor, or an opportunistic sexual predator who noticed the victim by themselves. Sometimes, they can be all of those things. People often envision child abductors as creepy, unkempt weirdos who drive around in scary-looking vans. This is an unhelpful Hollywood stereotype, however, as past cases have shown us that kidnappers can be married with children and have no history of violent crime. Furthermore, situational predators exist, and they can prey on any age group if the opportunity arises, especially if drugs or alcohol are involved. Although many are skeptical that Asha left her home and wandered into the sights of such a man, history is full of victims who met the wrong person in the wrong place, at the wrong time. Such a coincidence may be the sole reason that this case has been so difficult to solve. If the police are correct about the kidnapping theory, then it is the author's opinion that Asha was abducted by someone who was living in the general area. This assertion is based on two facts. Firstly, the Dr. Seuss book was traced back to her school library. Secondly, these kinds of predators prefer to operate in familiar places. The book, along with the New Kids on the Block shirt, suggests that the offender may have children of his own. It is the author's opinion that the offender wasn't 100% certain which items belonged to Asha and which items belonged to his own children. Consequently, he ended up throwing the shirt and book into the bag. This would have been a very costly mistake if the school had kept proper records. The use of plastic bags may have been his attempt to prevent fibers and other trace evidence from becoming embedded in the exterior of the bag. If the abduction occurred after 2:30 a.m. on a Monday morning, then it stands to reason that he did not have a regular 9-to-5 job. There is also a good chance that alcohol was involved. Asha may have known this man. He may have been a relative, a neighbor, or the father of one of her schoolmates. In the days following Asha's disappearance, those who knew him would have noticed a stark change in his personality. He would have seemed stressed, short-tempered, and uninterested in his regular routine. If he hasn't died from drugs, alcohol, misadventure, or suicide, then it is likely that he keeps abreast of developments in the case by regularly Googling for updates and other content relating to it. It's been 24 years since the disappearance of Asha Degree, 24 years since the disappearance of 9-year-old Asha Degree. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office said they have something that could lead to answers. Asha Degree was last seen walking away from her home near Shelby on Valentine's Day in 2000. She would be in her 30s now. Sheriff Alan Norman said he believes new technology could help them and the FBI solve this case. Currently, there is a $45,000 reward being offered for any information that leads to finding Asha Degree. On Valentine's Day of this year, a mere 10 days away, it will be 22 years since Asha Degree disappeared from Shelby, North Carolina in the middle of the night. All disappearances of human beings rankle in the soul and make us ask ourselves how such things can happen in today's world where camera eyes are almost always upon us, where we have devices which track our every move, and where we have all sorts of advanced means of search and recovery, from wilderness specialists to drones to DNA. And new investigative tools like genetic genealogy have emerged to help in identifying and apprehending perpetrators. Yet the combination of these advantages, this modern arsenal, has not yielded an answer in the case of Asha Degree. All disappearances disturb us and make us wish for the best possible outcome, but some cases disturb us at an even deeper level because of the mysterious nature of those vanishings. Asha Degree's is one of those cases. She disappeared in a way that we do not expect children of her age to vanish. We don't expect a 9-year-old to leave her home in the middle of a winter night, in a terrible storm, to wander down a highway and then suddenly veer off into wilderness and never be seen again. Asha resided with her family in an apartment on Oakcrest Street in Shelby, North Carolina in 2000. She was last seen inside her home at approximately 2:30 a.m. on February 14, 2000. Asha's father went to sleep at that time and told authorities his daughter was asleep in her bed when he checked on her. Asha shared a room with her older brother, who stated that he heard noises during the early morning hours and assumed his sister was tossing in her sleep. Asha's mother went into her room at approximately 6:30 a.m. to wake her children for school and discovered Asha was not in her bed. The family immediately summoned authorities and an extensive search of the surrounding area was initialized, with no result. Asha has never been heard from again. 2 truck drivers reported seeing her walking south on Highway 18 north of Shelby between 3:30 and 4:15 a.m. Asha was apparently near the intersection of Highway 180 at the time, about a mile from her home. She left the highway at this point and walked off into the darkness. It was the last confirmed sighting of the child. Asha may have been sighted getting into a distinctive dark green early 1970s model car on the night she was last seen. The vehicle, which had rust around the wheel wells, is thought to have been either a Lincoln Mark IV or a Ford Thunderbird. Investigators believe Asha left her residence of her own accord. She is described as being quiet, shy person and a good student with a happy home life, and her reasons for leaving aren't clear. Asha's basketball team lost a game, their first loss in the season, the day before her disappearance. Her family said she was upset over the loss, but she calmed down within a few hours. Asha's 4th grade class at Falston Elementary School read the book The Whipping Boy by Sid Fleischman in February 2000. The book centers around the story of a prince and a commoner child who receives lashes on the royal's behalf. The children proceed to run away and the book details their adventures. Both boys return safely to the kingdom at the story's end. It is not known if the book served as a catalyst for Asha's disappearance. Asha's black book bag and black Tweety bird purse were missing from her room after her disappearance, along with a pair of blue jeans with a red stripe, black sneakers, a long-sleeved white shirt with purple lettering, a red vest with black trim, black overalls with Tweety bird on them, and a long-sleeved black and white shirt. All the doors to the house were found locked. Asha kept her house key in the book bag. Asha's pencil, marker, and Mickey Mouse hairbow were discovered on the ground in the doorway of a tool shed at Turner's Upholstery on Highway 18 on February 17, 2000, 3 days after her disappearance. Her belongings were found near the stretch of road where Asha was seen walking in the early morning hours of February 14. A search of the area failed to produce additional evidence. The items were discovered more than 1 mile from Asha's residence. A contractor uncovered Asha's book bag, which has her name and telephone number written on it, buried off Highway 18 in August 2001, 18 months after she disappeared. The item had been double-wrapped in black plastic trash bags and was found more than 26 miles from her family's home and in a different direction from where she'd been walking. Nearby, some animal bones and a pair of men's khaki pants were found. The bag was sent to a federal laboratory for testing, but, citing the pending investigation, authorities never released the results. Unconfirmed reports state the bag contained Asha's name on a piece of paper, as well as clothing and a pencil case. In October of that year, a plastic trash bag similar to the one Asha's book bag was wrapped in was found. The bag was sent to a police lab for analysis. Investigators announced that they considered Asha's disappearance to be a criminal matter and foul play was suspected after the book bag's discovery. The surrounding area was thoroughly searched afterwards, but additional evidence was reportedly not located. A story from National and Exploited Children, February 14, 2020. In the early morning hours of Valentine's Day, 2000, a little girl walked alone on the side of North Carolina Highway 18. It was an alarming sight to the few drivers that happened to pass by this small figure with a black backpack trudging through the rainy night. One concerned driver turned around to ask if the girl was all right, but she got spooked and ran off into the tree line. That's where 9-year-old Asha Degree was last seen, on that dark, rainy highway 20 years ago. At least, that is the last sighting known to law enforcement. The multiple agencies working this case and Asha's family know that someone out there knows exactly what happened to Asha that night, and where she is today. On the 20th anniversary of this case, the FBI is calling on the public to help bring Asha home. The case of Asha Degree still tugs at our heartstrings. Because we believe in justice and we believe in what's right, we will continue to work with our partners to solve this case and bring justice on behalf of Asha's family, says Robert Schermeyer, director of the State Bureau of Investigation in North Carolina, in a press release put out by the FBI. Ikia and Harold Degree, Asha's parents, discovered their daughter missing on the morning of February 14. They went to wake up Asha for school and quickly realized she wasn't in the house. Her parents called 911, and thus began the search for Asha that has not ceased to this day. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina found that some of Asha's personal items were also missing. She had packed a bag with some clothes and seemed to have left the house on her own accord. But no one knows why. Asha was a shy young girl with no disciplinary issues. There was no evidence that she had planned to meet someone that night, and doing so would have been extremely out of character. In the time since that cold February morning, there have been clues found along that same highway where she was last seen. Asha's hairbow was found in a shed on a nearby property. Her backpack was found 30 miles away in the opposite direction. In 2015, a tipster reported they saw a girl get into a green car the night she went missing. Law enforcement has exhausted each lead that has come in, but Asha has yet to be found. They're hoping someone will come forward with the information they need to solve this case. Tim Adams, a former detective with the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, came out of retirement to lead the new probe into Asha's case. According to the FBI, there have been 45 leads investigated in the past year alone. Law enforcement agencies are now approaching the case with new eyes and increased urgency, treating this 20-year-old case as if it happened just yesterday. The Degree family has never let go of the hope that Asha is alive out there somewhere. We're hoping and we're praying that she's had a halfway decent life even though we didn't get to raise her, Ikia said. She was 9 years old, and she'll be 30 this year. So we've missed everything. But I don't care. If she walked in the door right now, I wouldn't care what I missed. All I want to do is see her. At the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, our forensic artists have produced this age-progressed image of what Asha might look like now, at 29 years old. If you have any information about Asha Degree, please call the tip line at 704-672-6100 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST, that's 1-800-843-5678. Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, North Carolina, 1-704-484-482. Tunkmek, 879. Tabitha Danielle Tudors missing since April 29, 2003. Missing from Nashville, Tennessee. Classification: endangered. Missing sex: female. Race: white. Date of birth: February 15, 1990. 34. Age: 13 years old. Height and weight: 4 feet 9 inches, 5 feet 1 inch, 90 to 100 pounds. Clothing/jewelry description: a light blue shirt, mud jeans, and Reebok sneakers. Distinguishing characteristics: Caucasian female. Sandy blonde hair, blue eyes. Tabitha has a birthmark on her abdomen and a scar on her finger. Her ears are pierced and she has a fair, freckled complexion. Tabitha was last seen by her family at approximately 7 a.m. on April 29, 2003. When her father woke her up in their home in the 1300 block of Lillian Street in Nashville, Tennessee. She was watching television when he went to work. She was supposed to board the school bus at 8 a.m. at 14th and Boscobel Streets. Witnesses saw her walking in that direction. She was reading some papers as she walked and didn't appear to be in a hurry, or looking for anyone. Tabitha did not get on the bus and never arrived at Bailey Middle School 2 miles away. Her parents contacted the school that evening when she failed to return home. When they found out she had been absent from school that day, they reported her missing shortly before 6 p.m. She does not have a history of a runaway and her parents cannot think of any reason why she would want to leave her home. She was a straight-A student with a perfect attendance record. She was active in the choir at Eastland Baptist Church, and there is no evidence that she had a boyfriend. She was supposed to go visit the Six Flags of America amusement park in Louisville, Kentucky 2 weeks after she disappeared, and was very excited about the trip. She left behind all her possessions, including her clothes, makeup, and $20 in cash. Authorities initially treated Tabitha as a runaway due to her age, but they now believe she was abducted. Her parents and 2 adult siblings were all investigated and none are being called suspects in her disappearance. A neighborhood boy told police he saw Tabitha get into a red car with a man on the morning of her disappearance. He described the driver as African American, 30 to 40 years old, wearing a baseball cap. The witness stated once Tabitha was inside the vehicle, it reversed course and headed back up the hill. The boy's story has not been confirmed and some investigators doubt his credibility, but tracker dogs traced Tabitha's scent along a route similar to the one described by the witness. The dogs eventually traced her scent into an alley, a place Tabitha's friends say she would never have gone to alone. Tabitha's sister's former boyfriend matches the description of the driver. He drove a red car, and he knew where and when Tabitha took the bus to school each morning, but police have never been able to connect him to her disappearance. Her parents stated they did not believe she would have willingly gone into a car with anyone other than a family member. A piece of paper found in Tabitha's room after her disappearance may have some connection to her case. The paper reads, in Tabitha's handwriting, TDT, N, MTL. TDT are Tabitha's initials. The initials of the other person are unknown. Also found was a business card with Tabitha's name, address, phone number, and the notations "Call me" and "Sexy Girl," the latter of which was crossed out and rewritten as "Ghetto Girl." The card turned out to have been given Tabitha by a friend, though, and had no connection to her disappearance. Police searched the logs of a computer at the local public library where Tabitha is said to have visited internet chat rooms, but turned up no information pertaining to her disappearance. A man who was arrested for trying to lure an 11-year-old girl into his car 4 months after Tabitha's disappearance was looked at as a person interest in her case because of the nature of the crime he is charged with and because the alleged incident happened just a few blocks from Tabitha's home. There is no evidence connecting the man and Tabitha, however, and he was eventually taken off the suspect list. On October 30, 2003, a trucker reported a possible sighting of Tabitha from Linton, Indiana. The trucker saw a girl accompanied by a man and another teenage girl. The girl who looked like Tabitha appeared to be anxious and afraid. Later, when he saw a missing persons flyer of Tabitha, he realized that she resembled the girl he'd seen and contacted police. A hotel clerk in Linton also saw a girl resembling Tabitha with a man and a teenage girl and reported it. These sightings has not been confirmed. August 19, 2003, almost 5 months after Tabitha's disappearance, an 11-year-old girl named Heaven Ross disappeared while on her way to school in Northport, Alabama. Her remains were found in Holt, Alabama 3 years after her disappearance. Her murder remains unsolved. Like Tabitha, Ross had light-colored hair and disappeared in the morning hours on the way to school. Authorities are considering a possible connection between the girls' cases, though the distance between Nashville and Northport is great and so far no evidence has been uncovered to link the two cases. Tabitha's case remains unsolved. Investigators are not sure what happened to her, but they believe she is in danger. 21 years ago today, 13-year-old Tabitha Tudors went missing from her East Nashville neighborhood. On April 29, 2003, Tabitha got ready for school and walked over to the bus stop 1 block away. She never came home. We don't know what happened, just that she went to the bus stop and never made it to the other bus stop, because I always told her, Tabitha, don't sit on that corner by yourself, her mom, Deborah Tudors, has said. The FBI is offering a reward of up to $50,000 for information leading to the recovery of Tudors and the prosecution of the person responsible for her disappearance. 21 years after an East Nashville teenager disappeared while walking to the bus stop, the search for clues continues. On April 29, 2003, Metro Police say Tabitha Tudors left her home on Lillian Street to walk about a block to the bus stop. However, she never made it on the bus and never arrived at Bailey Middle School. Witnesses told police they saw a car pull up next to her, and then a few seconds later, it drove off and she was gone. Descriptions of the car have varied from a Volkswagen Bug to a Ford Mustang, and the color could be red or green. When Tabitha did not return home from school that afternoon, her parents knew something was wrong. After notifying the police, volunteers and neighbors helped scour her neighborhood for any sign of the 13-year-old. They came up empty-handed. A faded banner with her photo and description has been hanging in the front porch of the Tudors home ever since she disappeared. Her parents say the sign will stay up until they find their daughter. Inside the home, Tabitha's bedroom has been mostly untouched. Photos of Tabitha still hang on the walls, and her family talks about her often to keep her memory alive. It hits you in a way, said Bo Tudors, Tabitha's father. It just tears your heart out. Metro Police said they still receive tips on a regular basis on the case, and they follow up on every piece of new information they receive. However, at this point, every tip has been a dead end. Still, investigators aren't giving up hope the case can be solved. There are some tips that have come in that have been somewhat promising, said Matthew Filter, a detective with the Metro Police Department's Cold Case Homicide/Missing Persons Unit. At least if you are getting tips, it's just a matter of getting the right tip that comes in. If there's somebody out there that knows what happened, it's been 20 years, said Bo Tudors. Please let someone know so we can get her back where she belongs. Tabitha's family has held regular vigils on the anniversary of her disappearance and continues to celebrate her birthday. We actually need some kind of closure before the good Lord takes us away, said Bo Tudors. If we don't see her here, we will see her when we meet him. Anyone with information about Tabitha Tudors is asked to contact the Metro Police Department Cold Case Unit at 615-862-7803 or Crime Stoppers at 615-742-7463. Callers to Crime Stoppers can remain anonymous. Nashville Metro Police Department, Tennessee, 1-615-862-8600 NCMEC, 961685. Teresa Melissa Dean missing since August 15, 1999 missing from Macon, Georgia classification endangered missing sex female race white date of birth September 20, 1987, 36, age 11 years old height and weight 4 feet 10 inches, 75 pounds clothing/jewelry description a short-sleeved blue and white striped button-down shirt, orange-pink or rust-colored knit pants, clear plastic gel-type sandals, and gold ball earrings. Medical conditions Teresa may require medical attention for unspecified reasons. Distinguishing characteristics Caucasian female. Brown hair, blue eyes. Teresa has a speech impediment. Her ears are pierced. Teresa was last seen walking down Lawrence Street near her family's single-wide trailer in Macon, Georgia at approximately 8 p.m. on August 15, 1999. She has never been seen again. Teresa said she was going to a friend's house to visit some puppies, but never arrived there. An extensive search of the area produced no clues as to her whereabouts. Teresa's mother's former boyfriend, Cody Landers, lived with her family in 1999. He was Teresa's mother's fiancé at the time, but they have since broken off their engagement. In October 2000, Landers was indicted on 7 child molestation charges involving 2 children. He said that he failed a polygraph test which he took voluntarily shortly after Teresa's disappearance, but claimed that the test was administered improperly. He called himself a suspect in Teresa's case, but the police never named him as one. He is now in prison after pleading guilty to the child molestation charges. Landers has never been connected to Teresa's case and no arrests have been made in her disappearance. Some investigators feel Teresa's case may be connected to the abductions and murders of Heaven Ross from Northport, Alabama in 2003 and Shannon Nicole Polk from Prattville, Alabama in 2001. The girls were all 11 years old, and they all went missing during the month of August from trailer parks where they lived. There was construction going on near the site of each girl's disappearance and it has been theorized that a construction worker or workers were involved in the cases. Shannon was found deceased 7 weeks after she disappeared. Heaven's remains were not recovered until late December 2006, over 3 years after her disappearance. Both girls' murders remain unsolved and no hard evidence links them to Teresa's case. Teresa's case remains unsolved. She was a student at Alexander Four School in 1999. She has previously lived in Bibb County, Georgia. Authorities believe foul play may have been involved in her case. Teresa Dean, 11, left her home on August 15, 1999 after telling her mom she was going to see a neighbor's puppies and visit a friend. She never returned. 16 years without answers as to what happened to then 11-year-old Teresa Dean. Teresa was last seen walking to a friend's home not too far from her own around 4 o'clock on the afternoon of August 15, 1999, by one of her neighbors in Macon, Georgia. The outgoing young girl, whom her mother described to a local reporter at the time as everyone's best friend, said she was going to see a neighbor's puppies, then to visit a friend. She was in and out like she usually does. Dorothy Dean, Teresa's mother, told the Macon Telegraph the year after Teresa vanished. She said, "Bye, Mama, I'll see you later," and then she left. But later never came. When police arrived that evening, there was no sign of the young girl. Drove up and spoke to Dorothy Dean, Teresa's mother. She was kind of frantic, a little bit, to say that her daughter left and went down to a friend's house earlier in the evening and never showed up back home. An 11-year-old Twiggs County girl went missing almost 24 years ago and sheriff's deputies are still getting calls about what may have happened to her. Teresa Dean was last seen walking from a friend's house on Lawrence Drive around 4 p.m. on August 15, 1999. Investigators say that's the last time anyone saw her. Every once in a while, you can find Twiggs County Sheriff Darren Mitchum in his office, going over what he calls one of the most puzzling cases he has in his files. Although he wasn't sheriff at the time, Mitchum says he's as caught as can be in the search for Dean. We continue to run down every possibility. You like to think that something like that is possible because I mean if you look back, there are people who escaped from prison and lived out the rest of their life until they die of old age, Mitchum says. The county's chief investigator, Captain Chip Stokes, remembers getting the call a mother frantically looking for child. Drove up and spoke to Dorothy Dean, Teresa's mother. She was kind of frantic a little bit to say that her daughter left and went down to a friend's house earlier in the evening and never showed up back home, Stokes says. Deputies say it wasn't unusual for Teresa to make that walk. Investigators didn't waste any time interviewing possible witnesses. Going back through the volumes of case files, there were several people that were polygraphed and interviewed during the early stages of the investigation before my time. Mitchum says, nothing. Not one person saw what happened to Teresa. We made a grid of the neighborhood where she lived and a perimeter on the outside of that. Probably within about a 5-mile radius surrounding the neighborhood she lived in, Mitchum says. The sheriff's office received help from both the Georgia and federal bureaus of investigation on the ground, in the air, and in nearby bodies of water. Teresa's picture is still on the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website along with an age progression rendering. Ironically, we still get information from time to time from people that say that they knew of some of her family or were friends with some of her family, Mitchum says. Leads that end up running cold, leaving the sheriff and his investigators back at square one as they continue to wait for justice. I could not imagine having a son or daughter that just vanishes. I don't believe people just vanish off of the face of the earth. Something happened to them, and most of the time, somebody knows what, Mitchum says. On August 15, 2024 will be 25 years that Teresa Dean has been missing. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Macon, Georgia 1-478-745-1271 or your local FBI NCMEC 872,344. Bianca Elaine LeBron. Bianca was a 5th grade student at Elias House School in her hometown of Bridgeport, Connecticut in 2001. She arrived for classes during the morning hours of November 7, 2001 and told her friends and a teacher that her uncle was taking her shopping during the day. She invited friends to come along, but they declined. Witnesses told authorities that Bianca got into a vehicle at 8:30 a.m., before classes began. The vehicle was an older model two-tone brown and tan van with tinted windows. The exterior was in poor condition and it appeared to have been sanded in several areas. A photo of a similar van and a sketch of its driver are posted with this case summary. Bianca has never been heard from again. The driver is described as an Hispanic male, approximately 20 to 30 years old. Witnesses said he stood 5 feet 8 inches to 5 feet 11 inches with an average build. The individual had black curly hair styled in a short afro with long sideburns and a beard, brown eyes, a prominent nose and scratches on both of his cheeks. He was wearing a long-sleeved blue pullover shirt with Gap imprinted on the front and along the right sleeve, Fubu jeans with an image of the cartoon character Fat Albert on the right rear pocket, and scruffed brown Timberland boots. The man made no attempt to conceal his face from witnesses. Bianca's classmates believed that the unidentified man was her uncle and didn't interfere when she entered his van. Her family members told authorities Bianca does not in fact have an uncle, however, and none of her relatives owned a van similar to the vehicle involved in her abduction. School officials received widespread criticism for their handling of Bianca's disappearance. Administrators did not realize Bianca was missing until the day after her abduction. Her teacher counted her absent. Stronger security measures and new attendance policies were put into place after Bianca disappeared. The teacher who heard Bianca's statements about plans with her uncle on the day of her abduction was suspended with pay. Bianca's mother believes she is alive, but had her declared legally dead so she could bring a wrongful death lawsuit against the school. Bianca resided with her mother and stepfather, Carmelita Torres and Angelo Garcia, in Bridgeport at the time of her disappearance. Bianca's family noticed that she was missing at approximately 4:30 p.m. They initially believed that she may have been at a friend's house and did not remember to call them. When Bianca failed to return home by 8:30 p.m., her mother called the authorities. She often went to the homes of relatives other than her parents after school, and once disappeared overnight but turned up safe at a friend's house. Bianca's mother and father had an amicable relationship at the time of Bianca's disappearance. Neither is suspected of involvement in her case. Bianca is described as having an outgoing personality with high self-esteem. She was a very good student in 2001 and it's uncharacteristic of her to skip school, as she apparently did the day of her disappearance. In 2001 her hobbies included dancing and singing to all types of music, as well as shopping at Milford Mall and Trumbull Mall near her family's residence. She also had a pet hamster named Nina. Elias House School has since been closed, and Bianca's father now lives in Florida, but her grandmother still lives in the same house as she did in 2001 and her entire family hopes she will be found. No suspects have been identified in Bianca's disappearance. Her case is unsolved. The case of a missing 10-year-old Bridgeport girl has hit a somber milestone. It's now been 23 years since Bianca Lebron disappeared. Bianca Elaine Lebron was waiting to go inside her elementary school on November 7, 2001, when she told classmates she was going shopping with an uncle. She was last seen getting into a dark-colored vehicle with tinted windows. Lebron's disappearance prompted a nationwide search, but she has never been found. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has released an age-progressed photo of Lebron. Anyone with information on Lebron's disappearance is asked to call 911 1-800-843-5678 or the Bridgeport Police Department at 203-576-7671. Amber Renee Barker missing since December 18, 1997. Missing from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Classification: endangered. Missing sex: female. Race: white. Date of birth: October 14, 1987. 36. Age 10 years old. Height and weight: 4 feet 11 inches, 5 feet 0 inches, 70 to 80 pounds. Clothing/jewelry description: a long-sleeved beige shirt with a brown collar, light blue or black jeans and no excuses sneakers. Associated vehicle: S. Blue 10-speed bicycle. Accounted for. Distinguishing characteristics: Caucasian female. Brown hair, brown eyes. Amber's ears are pierced. Her nickname is Ambi. Amber was last seen at approximately 6 p.m. on December 18, 1997 in her hometown of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Her mother spoke to her on the phone while she was at a friend's home and told her to come home. She left her friend's residence and was last seen riding her blue 10-speed bicycle in the 3000 block of Northwest 45th Street at the time. Amber was on her way to her home in the 3100 block of Northwest 39th Street. She never arrived and has never been heard from again. Amber's bicycle was discovered abandoned in Denniston Park in Oklahoma City on December 19, the day following her disappearance. The bike was located near Northwest 27th Street and Drexel Boulevard, which is 1 mile from her home. Amber's sweater, shoes, one sock and a ring were found along Drexel Boulevard and Northwest 12th Street on December 20. One of her shoes was a block away from the other one. Investigators stated that blood, hair, and fiber evidence was discovered near Amber's possessions. There were blue fibers on her sweater, as well as vomit mixed with possible ejaculate. There was a speck of blood on her shoe, but the blood spot was so small that authorities could not link it to any specific person. Authorities were able to form a partial DNA profile for an unknown man from the evidence on the sweater. Daniel John Smith, Amber's sister's common-law husband, was previously convicted of attempted kidnapping in 1995. He admitted that he assaulted a woman in Oklahoma City while he was intoxicated and tried to steal her car keys. The woman says he tried to rape her. Smith pleaded guilty and was sentenced to a 5-year deferred prison sentence and 4 months at a boot camp, where he earned excellent reviews. The police had been summoned to another of Amber's sister's homes in November 1997, approximately 1 month before the child disappeared. Her sister claimed that Smith hit her after she refused his sexual advances. He was given a citation by authorities but was not arrested. Smith was allegedly at Amber's residence when she called her mother to say she was returning home. He left the residence immediately afterwards and headed west, the same direction Amber was coming from. Smith was questioned about Amber on the day after her disappearance, and authorities wanted to interview him further, but he discovered hanged from a tree in at Raytrent Park in Del City, Oklahoma at 11:30 p.m. on December 22, 1997, 4 days after Amber was last seen. His death was ruled a suicide. Smith was not labeled as a suspect at the time. Authorities simply said they wanted to question him regarding Amber's case. However, both the police and Amber's family suspected he had knowledge of her disappearance. Amber's disappearance remains unsolved. She was a 4th-grade student at James Monroe Elementary School at the time of her disappearance. Her loved ones stated she wasn't having any personal problems when she went missing, neither does she have a history as a runaway. One of Amber's sisters died in 2013, and her mother died in 2014. Foul play is suspected due to the circumstances involved in her case. Following the closure of a 27-year-old cold case in California, a mother in Oklahoma said her hope has been restored in solving the mystery. Bonnie Barker's daughter disappeared 11 years ago, and Amber Baker's case remains unsolved. "I did think that she's still living," Bonnie Barker said. "I don't know anymore. Since it seems like she would have got a hold of us by now." Bonnie Barker will celebrate Christmas without her daughter, but will look at pictures of Amber and remember what once was. "She loved Christmas," Bonnie Barker said. "We used to sleep on the couch together every night, even when she was 10 years old. She didn't like to sleep in her room by herself, it scared her." Amber went missing on December 18, 1997 while she was returning from a friend's house near Interstate 44 and Drexel Avenue. Police found her bike and clothes, but not Amber. "We did develop information on one possible suspect," said Sergeant Paco Baylorama of the Oklahoma City Police Department. "Unfortunately, this individual killed himself soon after being interviewed by police, so we never got to find out what may have happened to her." Daniel Smith, the lone suspect, was Amber's brother-in-law. "I definitely think that he's responsible," Bonnie Barker said. "I believe there's somebody else involved besides him that knows something." Amber's mother said she believes someone has the answers she's waiting for. "She was harmless, she was just a little angel," Bonnie Barker said. "She never hurt a soul. I don't know why anybody would ever want to hurt her." Police said Amber Barker's case remains open, and ask anyone with information to come forward. Since it's been almost 27 years, police think Amber is dead, but the case will remain open until Amber or her body are discovered.
Yeah. Everybody knows that I'm breaking down. Everybody knows I ain't faking now. Everybody knows my heart's vacant now. Yeah, she hates me now, I made mistakes but now I don't ever wanna be alone. I don't really ever feel at home. On my own, in the zone, that's the only way I know. Feeling low, about to blow back up. I won't ever let the doubt creep in. Gotta pop a couple more aspirin. I don't think I'll ever let you in. Easier to break it off best friends. I don't really understand myself. I don't really understand, need help. I don't wanna be left on the shelf. Couldn't even hear me if I yelled.
It's so cold outside, I'm alone